Hey, the one thing I know to be true about this league, right, is that every win doesn't have to look aesthetically pleasing, right? We just find a way, man. And it's the guys in this room that make it happen, right? When we needed it the most, right, and they had 4 downs to go all the way down, we made a stop on defense to win the freaking game. So really proud of everybody, all right? And we got to get our minds right. We're playing a hell of a team coming up this next week, all right? We're going back out to LA again. Get your minds ready, all right? It's going to be a freaking battle, all right? Every day's a battle. It's a journey in this league, right? And enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process every single time you step on this field, man. It doesn't get any better than being part of the National Football League. Don't ever take it for granted. Don't ever take it for granted. But hell of a job by everybody, all right?
At the beginning there, you heard Shane Steichen talking about resilience and kind of fighting through things. And really, you can't say any more than that for this Colts team because they had some things go very, very wrong before kickoff even started. Somehow, Anthony Richardson, who was the backup quarterback, injured himself with an elastic band, a resistance band, badly enough to break an orbital bone. And so that meant that Riley Leonard, who was usually the emergency quarterback, had to be quarterback number 2, while Richardson had to go to the hospital. That had some effect on the game, just kind of a weird curiosity. But really what had the big impact on the game was that Mooney Ward in warm-ups had a collision with Drew Ogletree. Ogletree was just kind of catching a ball, kind of backed into him as Ward was, running going through a warm-up routine. They collided. Ward went down for a little while. He didn't get back up. Turns out he suffered a concussion. So about an hour before kickoff, the Colts lost their number 1 cornerback, and they were already thin at the position. You were banking on Mooney Ward being the guy for the Colts. He was going to take care of, probably shadowing Marvin Harrison Jr. most of the game. And of course, that kind of worked out for Indianapolis because Harrison later in the game early in the game suffered a concussion of his own and wasn't out there. But really the Colts with just a lot of inexperience out there in that defensive backfield. And it really showed because Jacoby Brissett had just a stellar game for the Cardinals for the most part. So, but again, good teams win games when they don't play their best. And I think you could argue that the Colts didn't play their best here. I mean, the first drive looked great. Daniel Jones diagnosed the defense quickly. The Colts had their scripted plays. They knew what they wanted to do against Arizona on that first drive. They were able to execute it to perfection and got a quick touchdown. And it looked like, oh, here we go. The Colts are rolling. And then, the offense stalled, had a couple of punts, had some 3-and-outs, which is pretty rare for this Colts offense. But when push came to shove, they were able to get the win. And the best thing that you could ask for is give a gift. Send your gift basket to the Seattle Seahawks. They took care of the Jaguars this week, and that means that the Colts are at 5-1 in the AFC South. Jaguars dropped down to 4-2. Texans at 2-3. They were on the bye this past week. And then the Titans unable to get a 2-game winning streak alive. They got pretty much manhandled by the Raiders. And we saw that Raiders team last week that got manhandled by the Colts. And it just says a little bit about, it says a lot actually about the Tennessee Titans and kind of where they currently are as a team and as a franchise right now. So losing to the Raiders, not great. But the big thing is the Colts have the most wins in the AFC right now. That could change, of course, tonight because the Monday night game is the Buffalo Bills, who are 4-1. They win tonight, then they'll also be 5-1. But regardless, this is exactly the kind of start that you wanted if you are an Indianapolis Colts fan and playing from ahead. They mentioned a lot of times from an offensive perspective in the broadcast about being ahead of schedule, right? Like, don't get behind the chains. Don't get yourself into 2nd and 10. Don't get yourself into 2nd and 12, in these long down and distance situations. And it kind of, there's kind of a parallel with the beginning of the season and how things can go. And the Colts are ahead of schedule right now at 5-1. They've won the games that they're supposed to win. Got a game that they probably should have lost to Denver, but kind of the breaks went their way. The breaks didn't go their way against the Rams. And, the Colts could, people say, well, the Colts could easily be 6-0. Well, they could also be 4-2 because they shouldn't, the Denver game, they did get fortunate. But listen, this offense, it was a struggle. They put up 31 points, but a lot of that came in the second half, or 21 points that came a lot of it came in the second half. And, um, you know, it was not easy at times for this Indianapolis Colts offense. And that's fine. That's what you're going to get sometimes in these football games. And you just have to hope that your team can go out there and win. And, they were able to do that. And a couple, Daniel Jones talked in the post game. We'll get to him in here in a couple of minutes, but he talked to the post game about the difficulty of diagnosing this Cardinals defense because they kind of give you one look and they shift things late or not at all. And then it's up to you in real time to diagnose. And one of Daniel Jones's biggest strengths has been his ability to, diagnose things quickly in pre-snap. Make the right pre-snap read, get the Colts into the right play, make a shift, move a player around, see a route that he thinks going to do well for the team or a play that he thinks going to do well for the team. Well, Arizona doesn't quite give you that opportunity. And at first drive went really well. After that, it took an adjustment period for Daniel Jones. And, in the second half, kind of got it together, but it took some big time throws. I mean, the one he made to Alex Pierce, there was not much of a window there, but he knew where he wanted to put that ball, and he just zips it in there because he does have a very accurate laser arm when it calls for. Josh Downs, also tremendous for the Colts, and his contributions, like you look at the stat sheet for Josh Downs, and this even includes last week. I mean, this week he had 6 catches for 42 yards. He had the touchdown. When you look at the numbers, just if you're just, box score peeping, you don't think there's much there. But when you watch the game, you see the wiggle that Josh Downs has, his shiftiness, his ability to just kind of make something out of nothing. Just huge contributions from Josh Downs. But let's stop for a minute and listen to Coach Shane Steichen.
Overall, the game, though, I thought our guys were resilient for 4 quarters. Obviously found a way there at the end, getting the 4-down stop there. In the red zone, but a lot of back and forth. Credit to Arizona. That's a hell of a football team over there. Offense, defense, special teams. It was great back and forth, but I just like the way our guys came out and found a way to finish it there at the end.
2 pregame injuries. What are you thinking as you're starting after that?
It was very interesting, to say the least. We had to kind of rally the troops there in the locker room and get us back into focus. And I thought our guys did that the right way, and just obviously hope AR's good and Mooney's good. It was just trying to get the guys back on focus.
You said he had an orbital fracture. Did he have to go to the hospital?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of timeline that normally is?
I don't know.
What can you say about some of the throws that Daniel was making down the stretch of that game, that drive to take a lead?
It was huge. We had a couple of them. We had one with a little double move to Downs, and they went to a cloud, and he was talking about all week, hey, if they go to this coverage, I might snap around and rip this in cut there. And sure enough, he saw it pre-snap. He flipped, and he hit Alec right there on the end, which was a huge play to set up that touchdown drive. So he made, like I said, he made some big-time throws. I thought the guys all did a hell of a job, especially the O-line protecting, and Warren obviously had a big game. Downs had a big game. It was good. And then JT ran hard like he always does. And to finish it in a 4-minute situation with the ball in our hands and taking a victory knee there was awesome. Yeah, right now he is. Right now, yeah.
At the end of the first half, during a little time left, a couple of timeouts, what was your thought process?
Well, they had all the time, and they were going to make it the last shot themselves. So we thought, hey, when we get to a goal-to-go situation, we're going to have to start using them here so we can get, so we have some time left, if we have to go down and, if they would have scored.
Shane, with the, I don't know how you balance when you've got so many TVs out, so you're giving up a lot of plays that you could, but then you got untested guys, I guess, making plays. Do you walk away saying they made a play when they had to?
Yeah, heck yeah. I thought those guys did make a play when they had to, and obviously you got some young guys out there that are learning on the job, and I thought they competed their tail off. There wasn't any lack of compete in any of those guys. They were relentless, and like I said, when we needed it, there at the end, we came up big.
That 3rd and 8 down by the goal line to Josh, what allowed that play to be successful?
Just it was him one-on-one with the backer inside there, and we just had a little shake route on him and trying to cross face right there, and he did a hell of a job, creating the space right there. Great throw by Daniel to get that first down in that situation.
Shane, had some games lately where your offense has been playing with leads, but to have to go get it in the fourth quarter like that, what does it demonstrate? And I know that you kind of need some of that.
Yeah, no doubt. That's this league. You know what I mean? A lot of this league is what happened today. It's the back and forth, and I thought our guys, handled it well on the sidelines, and we knew it was going to be a back and forth game as we started getting going. And it was great, to see the offense there at the end go down and get that touchdown to go up 31-27 there to take the lead. So credit to the guys. I thought Jimbo did a hell of a job all week with the preparation. There were some things in the red zone. That first touchdown to Tyler Warren, he was looking at the tape, and he was like, dude, this thing's going to hit. And I was looking at him like, heck yeah, it is. And so hell of a scheme by him putting that play in. It was a little shallow route. It was awesome.
Shane, how resilient was Daniel's performance just in the middle there? I know that's a tough defense to read, and it felt like they made him maybe hitch a little bit for a couple drives, and then last 2 drives.
Yeah, I think obviously he was in rhythm there. That first drive, it was awesome, and then we had the 2 3-and-outs there, and then even on that boot where they intercepted it, I thought it was a hell of a play by number 2. We were all on the headset saying over, and he jumped up and said, "Oh, holy crap, that was a hell of a play by that guy." But then obviously, he got into rhythm. I thought he played in rhythm all game. What was he, 22 of 30 again? Great stats, and obviously when we needed there at the end on that last touchdown drive, he went down and led our team down.
You can help more.
Are there any emotional swings with him ever? Because he just seems like he's like this all the time.
Yeah, he's pretty calm. I think he's got laser focus. He's locked in. I think it's his preparation. A lot of you guys have heard me say that, but his preparation that he puts in during the week, like when you're prepared like the way he does, right? You don't blink. Like you go out and you have confidence in your ability because you put in the work like he does. And when you put in the work like that and you go execute like he's been doing, and the guys are making plays around him and the O-line's blocking, it's fun as a coach to watch.
You know about Jonathan, just the way that he transforms his coverages and everything. For Daniel to go what he did today, 22 of 30, put up 31 points. What does that say about him, just being able to diagnose that kind of defense?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of preparation like there is every week, but there was a lot of conversations in that QB room. I mean, Saturday night quarterback meeting, we're in there, and he's like, hey, let's pull up Carolina clip 42 and pull up Carolina clip 38. Let's look at these looks and just make sure, hey, are we good on this? Am I boom, boom, boom? Do you want me to check out of it? I mean, he's all over it. That's the preparation, and that's what you want at that position.
And that was Indianapolis head coach Shane Steichen talking about the team's 31-27 win against the Arizona Cardinals. Again, it moves the Colts to 5-1. They're at the top of the AFC South, top of the AFC, actually, right now, and obviously still a lot of football left to go. As we get in, this was week 6 of the season. It's a 17-game schedule, so there's a lot left, and the Colts have some very tough games down the stretch. But again, get ahead of things, do the best you can, and this really would help the Colts get off to a good start, which they did. But you heard Steichen talk about adversity, pregame stuff, having to make adjustments on the fly because Ward's out, and Anthony Richardson's your backup quarterback is now your rookie because your somewhat more experienced guy has gotten hurt in kind of a freak thing, and then you lose Ward. And the Colts, again, as I mentioned at the top, already thin at cornerback, and they needed contributions from Jonathan Edwards, who's an undrafted rookie, and Chris Lamons, who was kind of on and off the practice squad. He's been on the active roster because Kenny Moore's been hurt, and they've had other injuries at the position. And so, it was not great for the Colts on defense for the most part. I think they really struggled in this one, and they were able to get some pressure on Jacoby Brissett. I mean, he got hit about a dozen times according to the statistics. But I just know from seeing the game and watching it, he did get sacked a couple of times. I think Kwity Paye was credited with both of those for the Colts. Not a lot of sack yardage either. They're just like 8 yards because one of them was essentially a no gain. And, the defense really did struggle here. And, yeah, they were able to put some pressure on occasion. but, it still is in a money down situation in which Jacoby Brissett is dropping back 44 times in the game, which I'm sure is not something that the Arizona Cardinals fans want to see. Colts just in a 3rd and 17 situation, just not able to get in there and just close the deal. And, they had some chances to kind of close this game out near the end of the game too. And it took a 4th down stop in order to do it. But credit goes due, to the Colts. They did what they needed to do to win the game. And, they kind of came out on the offensive side, they came out passing. And that was clearly their philosophy. And then, after a couple of rough drives, they weren't able to get much going. They went and they rode JT. And I don't think there's any better formula for Indianapolis Colts success than leaning on Jonathan Taylor. And he had another 100-yard game for the Colts, 21 carries, 123 yards. He had a touchdown, added a couple of receptions, but four catches for 14 yards. So not a whole lot there as far as it goes. Mostly used in checkdowns, and there was a lot of checking down from Daniel Jones this week, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it is either better going to be an incompletion or a short play. It's not going to be a turnover, and you do what you have to do. You always hear the cliche, take what the defense gives you, and sometimes the defense gives you a check down because you're not trusting what you're seeing out there and you don't think anybody's open downfield. Don't force it. Which the irony is that, Jones did have an interception this week. It was not a great interception. Obviously, none of them are, but he kind of thought he could loft it over the head of the linebacker and couldn't quite get it there. I think the coaching staff saw the same thing that he saw, and he thought he could get it up there. But, it looked to me like the window there he was trying to hit Mo Alley Cox, and it looked like it was just well diagnosed by the linebacker, and he just went up and he got the ball. Now, fortunately for the Colts, fortunately for Daniel Jones, Indy's defense responded in a big way, and Mekhi Blackman got an interception from Jacoby Brissett, who is not exactly usually a turnover machine. He's usually pretty careful with the ball, but Colts were able to stave off any points there, and that was as big of a play probably as any that they were able to limit the immediate damage from what was favorable field position for the Arizona Cardinals there. But let's hear now from Daniel Jones, see what he has to say about the team's win.
Yeah, I think you still try to see it and recognize what they're playing and where the spots are in certain coverages, and there's traditional parts about it, and there's some unique stuff they do too. So you try to recognize it and still play fast, play with conviction, and throw it with conviction. So try to do that. Our guys made some big time plays.
Was there anything different you had to do to prepare for this? Even leading up to the night before, or was it just kind of the same as you've done in weeks past?
I think the process is largely the same, and kind of how you go about it. I think some of the communication and how you're communicating the wideouts or preparing yourself to get through certain reads, and some of that preparation is unique, as it is with any team, and kind of dependent on what you're going up against that week.
With complementary football, would you rather have the ball in your hands to win it, or after doing that, have to rely on your defense?
Well, I think you always want the ball in your hands with a chance to win the game. I think that's what we all prepare for and want, especially as a quarterback. You want the ball in your hands to go down and win it for sure. But I'm not going to complain if the defense stops them and we get a first down and kneel on it. That's true, yeah. But
Shane's talked a lot about your work habits this season. I wonder how that's evolved over your career. Is it more than it was earlier in your career? Have you learned to do it different ways? How has that evolved?
I think I think you just get better at it and more efficient with it. I think I've always spent a lot of time with it. I don't really do too much besides this stuff, so it's always been like that. But I think you get better at what's important or what's key in this situation, or what's critical that we communicate this week, or what's critical that the wideout knows this certain look and have an answer for that, and then communication with Shane, in the same way. It's like if we get a certain look, I'm thinking this. What are you thinking? And making sure we're on the same page that way. So I think the time and effort has been consistent, but you get better at it. You get more efficient in what exactly you're doing and how you're spending your time.
You said you don't do a whole lot else. Like, has it always been like that? Like, when did it start to become like, outside hobbies? Like, I bet you haven't done.
Yeah, but I think a lot of guys. Yeah. I don't think a lot of guys during the season, have a ton of hobbies. That's just the nature of it, kind of the way it works in this business. But yeah, I've pretty much always been that way during the season.
Going into that, you on like the Fits and Quits podcast recently, and you mentioned how much you learned when you were in Minnesota. How did that kind of help just your process overall, seeing those guys work and the combination of those guys?
Yeah, I think just the level of detail that they operated under. I think just so specific about what looks we're getting this week. Where's the answer? How do we recognize it? How do we walk through it? How do we prepare to see it? Having quick answers on what if this happens, what if that happens. All the situations that could come up in a game. They were KO, Grant, Josh, and then Sam, and all the quarterbacks were constantly quizzing each other and checking and making sure that they're ready to go for whatever the defense could do.
Shane talked just now about how before the game, it's kind of trying to get everybody refocused. A lot happened with Anthony and Mooney and so forth. What was that like? That's not your everyday situation.
Yeah, it was kind of a whirlwind. I was out on the field when I heard about Anthony, obviously thinking about him and hoping he recovers well. Kind of a freak situation there, but I think obviously you're concerned for your teammates, Mooney as well, and hoping they're all right. But you understand there's a job to do, and you gotta go out and play and get ready to go.
Feels like in a lot of third down kind of habit situations, you've looked toward Josh. What has he done to earn your trust in those spots?
I think he's just a really smart football player, someone who's gonna make the right decision, feel the space, and get there. And I think we have a lot of guys who do that. So Josh has come up big in a lot of those situations, but I have a lot of trust and confidence in all our guys in those situations.
Daniel, you guys have had dominant wins, but for this one to come down in the fourth quarter and come out on top against a really good defense like Arizona, what does that say about where this team is at, skill-wise, and just looking forward?
Yeah, I think it's just, resilient. I think that obviously the game back and forth, it wasn't the cleanest the whole time, and we certainly made some mistakes here and there. And playing against a good team that's going to, force you to execute and play well. I thought just mentally the fact we were able to kind of come down and execute down the stretch and make sure we were at our best when we needed to be. I think that goes a long way. So the skill, you asked about the skill. I think we're very confident in our ability and who we have on the field, and good to see us, kind of stay resilient, mentally in that situation.
Can you take a state interception? Were you just a little surprised the linebacker was able to get up that high?
Yeah. I think thought I could get it over him to Mo on that play, and he made a great play. I go back and look at it and make sure I'm taking care of the ball.
And that was Daniel Jones after the 31-27 win from the Indianapolis Colts against the Arizona Cardinals. Improves the record to 5-1. Let's just go through some stats real quick. Tyler Warren, having another solid game. They really used him on that first drive quite a bit. He had 9 targets in this game, so the most targets of any player. Josh Downs was second with 7, but he had 6 catches for 63 yards. He had the touchdown on kind of a little, I won't call it a gimmick play, but like a shovel pass type of play where they had him kind of run through the middle of the offensive line and just kind of flip the ball to him for a touchdown there. Alec Pierce, again, kind of like Josh Downs. Like Alec Pierce was targeted 4 times in this game. He only had 2 catches, but they were both consequential catches for the Indianapolis Colts, especially the 26-yarder that, Daniel Jones absolutely ripped that ball. And it was a good throw because there wasn't much of a window there. He got it in the window that was available, and Pierce was able to just kind of reach back and get it. I mean, it was just a tremendous play from both of those guys there. Jones on the day, 22 for 30, 212 yards, couple of touchdown passes. He had a third touchdown on a running. It was a rollout pass. They were trying to get Taylor open in the flat, but it didn't flash open. So, Jones was just like, you know what? I'll do it myself, and ran in. And that's the way that play is designed to go. If you can't get Taylor open in the flat, then, you've rolled out your quarterback. You see because he's got good wheels, right? See if he can get in the end zone and score. And that's exactly what Daniel Jones did. So while he had 2 passing touchdowns, he added the rushing touchdown. So 3 scores on the day there for Daniel Jones. Also had a 17-yard rush as well in this game. So 5 carries, 20 yards for him. Amir Abdullah, they spelled Taylor on a drive because they had been, wanted to make sure he was fresh for the rest of the game. And so they brought in Abdullah. He had a run for 7 yards, and he also had a catch for 9. And if he would have been able to, he made a little move and lost his footing a little bit, that could have even been a slightly bigger play, but still good. You're getting contributions from guys where you don't necessarily expect that you're going to get some contributions. So that's good for him. He was elevated from the practice squad as well, with Tyler Goodston still being hurt. From the defensive side, we did see Jermaine Pratt in there at linebacker. The Colts just signed him as a free agent. He's familiar with Lou Anarumo's system. He was first in the team on tackles. He had 11, but I don't think linebacker play was tremendous for the Colts. Second leading tackle was Zaire Franklin. Kwity Paye, 7 tackles on the day, a couple of sacks he was credited with 2 sacks there. Nick Cross and Mekhi Blackman both with 5 tackles each. And then Blackman, of course, had the big interception for the Indianapolis Colts. So, really, again, things are setting up very nicely for the Colts. They've just got to sustain and keep going. They face another. It's an AFC West opponent next week. They'll have to go and play the Chargers, and that team's kind of been up and down, but they're very, very skilled on offense. So we'll have to see how the Colts can do with that. Hopefully, Mooney Ward will be able to clear concussion protocol this week and play, because or the Colts are just going to have to make another move, a trade for somebody in the defensive backfield, because it does. I mean, like, it literally feels like the defensive backfield for the Colts somehow is cursed. I don't understand it. We talked about it in going into the season, that we thought it was a kind of a solid group, right? With Jalen Jones and Juju Brents and Nick Cross, and then you're bringing in Mooney Ward, and then you're adding other players into the mix, Cam Bynum, and we're thinking maybe this is be a pretty decent group. And then they drafted a couple guys, Hunter Waller and just Wally as well. And you thought that, they'll have some youth, they'll have some experience. They brought in some free agents. This would be a solid unit. And then just guys got injured everywhere all the time. And to Chris Lamont's credit, he had some really good plays, had a couple rough ones, but when it came down to it and he was on Trey McBride, I know that Arizona Cardinals fans are screaming for a flag, but sometimes those are the breaks, right? And I thought it was pretty decent coverage. And then toward the end of the route, I don't think he had his hands all over him, but I could certainly see that if the situation were reversed and we had Tyler Warren getting manhandled by another guy, another defender, then we would probably, Colts fans would probably think about that on the other side of things. But you know what? They needed a stop on 4th down. They got it. And then they were able to kind of close the deal because Arizona still had their 3 timeouts, right? And so there was still the possibility that the Colts would have to kick the ball back. But thankfully, they got a big run from Jonathan Taylor, and then they were just able to kneel the ball and go into the victory formation. So, again, let's take one more look at those AFC South standings, because they are beautiful. 5-1 for your Indianapolis Colts. They are at the top of the division right now, as they prepare for their next game which is against the Los Angeles Chargers. That is going to do it as we recap the Indianapolis Colts and their win over the Arizona Cardinals. Again, that final score, 31-27 for the Colts Blue Zone Podcast. I'm Matt Adams. Thank you for watching and for listening.